1. Dead and alive and dead. Puff. The touch and collision of falling into the icy sea water made Blake Shaw open his eyes at this moment. Immediately, there was a cry of pain. The whole body was like being thrown into the fire and roasted. The burning pain from all over made his whole body twitch. He tried hard to stabilize his body in the water. It's a pity that the severe pain in the limbs did not listen to him. Could it be that the case was blown up? Although it's an old computer, it's just a copy, isn't it? Confused thoughts kept popping up in Blake's mind. In the next instant, all these wild thoughts were put to an end. Because between the shadows and the surging sea, he saw what was happening on the sea. The burning flame is flowing. Those weird fires were not extinguished by the sea water, but continued to burn on the water, burning up everything that could be burned. In the turbid waters around, there are broken ship fragments everywhere, fallen corpses everywhere, and some sailors in armor are struggling to survive in the water. But they couldn't make any sound and could only die from suffocation. In Blake's raised line of sight, the undulating sea surface was higher in the sky, and there were two black shadows nearly 70 meters in length, spitting flames and passing by. The entire sea trembled under the ravages of this giant beast. This is a dragon? The moment Blake opened his mouth, sea water poured in, causing him to close his mouth immediately. The burning pain from all over his body made him a little unable to concentrate. He dazedly twisted his rusty neck, looked around, and then looked at his hands and body in his hands. The clothes and the like were all burnt by the dragon fire. Severe skin burns. It even made Blake feel melted. This is not my body. He was shocked when he saw fingers that were longer than he remembered. In the next instant, more chaotic memories rushed into his mind, like opening a floodgate to release the flood, causing him to tremble for a few moments while clutching his bald head in the water. The Third Fleet of Kultiras, the Battle of Cosmodin, the Orc tribes crossing the sea, Azeroth, the 6th year of the Dark Portal open, the Second Orc War. Do not! Blake howled in his heart. This was not the unfolding he hoped to see. But now, it's not the time to hold his head and wait to die. In the pain of the twitching burns, he can feel that his vitality is rapidly draining. It's like a burst balloon that can't be stopped. He was rapidly weakening. If he doesn't think of a way quickly, his fantasy journey will end in at most 5 minutes. He doesn't think so. He will still have the luck to return to another world that he is familiar with after another death. Blake slapped his face in the confusion, calmed himself down, and wanted to rise above the water, but the moment he touched his forehead, a translucent message appeared in front of him. Character card, Derek Proudmore, Blake Shaw. Info, Kultira's human, 19 years old. Status, mortal body. Seriously injured. Weak. Near death. Class, Warrior 10/Navigator 16/Stalker 5. Legendary class, none. Mythic class, none. Title, Prince of Kultiras. Equipment, none. Talents, Son of the Sea, Battle Warrior, Proudmore Bloodline, Hate Seal. Skill. Kultiran Military Swordsmanship, Proficient. Deadly Throw, Beginner. Fist of the Tides, Mastery. Navigation, Proficient. This, character card. After seeing this information, Blake's brain almost shut down in an instant. He didn't know what was going on. Are you an NPC now? And this neatly listed information and these familiar descriptions, isn't this the character setting of the group running game that he and a group of bad friends often play? So, are you in a running group story? Or came to the real Azeroth? But the next moment, he saw only 1/5 of the red bar below the character card, and it was still decreasing, which brought him back to reality. Don't worry about these for now. He couldn't find a way to save himself any longer. Either he was burned to death by the remaining fire of the red dragon, or he was suffocated to death in the sea. Under the crisis of life and death, Blake's mind was running wildly. Those memories engraved in my mind were quickly turned out. When the game started, it had been 24 years since the Dark Portal. The Third Fleet was slaughtered and destroyed by the Red Dragon controlled by the Dragonmaw clan, which was only a story that existed in the game background and mission chain. Black didn't know much about the details of this naval battle, but as a mission master, he almost immediately recalled a mission chain related to the sinking of the Third Fleet. In the waters of Cosmodin. Right in the wetlands. 18 years later, Fitzmas, an old sailor who survived the battle, will turn to every greedy adventurer who passes through Menethil Harbor. That bastard alcoholic will blackmail the adventurer for a glass of expensive ale before giving him the quest. Blake was still brooding about the glass of ale he gave him back then. After all, it is a gold coin. But thanks to that gold coin, let me know, that thing is here. The next moment, Blake made up his mind. He turned his body diligently in the water, and swam towards the wreck of the dreadnought battleship that was falling into the deep sea not far away. Every time I move my limbs it hurts. But he had to endure. If you can't get that thing, you'll be dead today. A steady stream of memories that belonged to Prince Drake Proudmoore emerged from his mind, which also confirmed Black's conjecture. The Third Fleet of Kultiras is not here to stop the Orc Grand Fleet crossing the sea today. They are just unlucky. In fact, before they set off, they didn't even know that the Orcs would cross the sea at this time. The original mission of these 2 battleships and 5 troop carriers was to transport recruits to Wildhammer Heights, where they would open up a battlefield behind enemy lines. At the same time, go to Arthy Highlands, Stromgard, the capital of the Kingdom of Stromgard, to deliver a holy relic of holy light contaminated by Orc warlocks. That thing is called the Eye of Paul's. It was made by the Church of Holy Light decades ago. It was originally a sacred object for the blessing of believers, but when Stormwind Kingdom was breached by Orcs 2 years ago, it also fell into the hands of the tribe. The sorcerers who played with shadow magic, led by Gul'dan, mercilessly polluted it and made it into an evil thing for curses. The polluted Eye of Paul's fell to the bottom of the sea, turning countless warriors who died in the first battle today into ghosts, and bound them forever on the shores of Cosmodan. This evil bondage lasted for a full 18 years. It was only cracked by the adventurer who was tricked by the escaped first mate, but the contaminated sacred artifact cannot be purified by ordinary priests. It was sent to the Cathedral of Stormwind City, where it was purified by the 2nd and 5th son of the Holy Light, Archbishop Benedictus. These vital information rolled over in Blake's mind. He endured the pain and spent less than 2 minutes rushing into the falling wreck of the dreadnought. Just below the captain's cabin. Boom. Blake threw his fists hard in the water and pushed the closed hatch in front of him with difficulty. Then, he saw the captain who committed suicide with a dagger in desperation. And the black magic suitcase he had in his hand. Key. Black grabbed the suitcase and, ignoring the crime of desecrating the corpse, grabbed a bronze-colored key from the waist of the suicide captain. At this moment, his chest was about to explode. Even though this body has the racial talent of the Kultirans, the son of the sea, can hold his breath longer in the water and swim faster, but he is now seriously injured. And getting weaker. The red bar under the character card has dropped to a precarious level, and in 10 seconds, it will be completely emptied. The polluted Eye of Paul's is a terrible thing. Anyone who holds it will be cursed to become undead. If it is not purified, this curse will last forever. Black was still thinking. He inserted the key into the magic suitcase in the water and twisted it hard. Click. As the sea water poured in, on the dark seabed, a purple-black, ominous light lit up in front of Blake's eyes, and he glanced at the bottom of the blood strip. Without any hesitation, he grabbed the palm-sized crystal ball in front of him. What? The surging dark magic power poured into Blake's body along his hands, and he could feel a cold and strange force exerted on him. The pain of the burn is fading fast. The passing vitality was also blocked. He could feel his breathing becoming heavier, and his skin was drying up quickly. Within a few seconds, it was as dry as a corpse that had been dead for many years. The mouth is losing its sense of taste, the brain is becoming drowsy, and the sense of touch and smell is also lost. But the hearing became eerily clear. It seemed that even the sea in front of him had become even darker, and a low and strange whisper sounded in his ears, and in his heart, like mosquitoes buzzing in his ears. After a second, Blake Shaw stopped breathing. But he didn't die. He was just cursed by an evil creature into an undead form. The undead will not be drowned, and the undead are not afraid of pain. The dark and evil magic power has solidified his vitality while cursing him. The bottomed-out HP bar no longer decreased. As Blake put the wet bread found in the wreckage of the battleship into his mouth, the HP bar started to rise slowly. That smell must be disgusting. But it doesn't matter, he has no sense of taste now. Survived. Blake felt relieved for a while. He was just suspended in the sea, and in the mood he put the crystal ball in front of him and looked at it. It is worthy of being called the Eye of Paul's. He didn't know who Pelez was, maybe a priest of the Holy Light, or the maker of this magic item, but this crystal ball really looked like a purple eye. He is constantly spreading malice around him. After staring at it for a long time, there will be more dense whispers in Blake's heart. The more he wants to listen, the less he can hear it. There is obviously something wrong with this thing. Azeroth, this is the gift you gave me. The undead Blake Shaw sighed. He looked back at the sea behind him. The light from the sky was refracted in the sea, reflecting an ominous paleness, as well as the corpses of the sailors who were about to be buried in the icy abyss. Those broken warships, those torn flags. Those ones. Buried glory. He was suspended in the sea, moving his limbs, like a silent observer, but also like a participant in the aftermath of the catastrophe. The sun above his head shone into the deep sea along the burning sea, reflecting the pale, flowing, ominous light. He will never forget what he saw today. These dead will be forgotten by the world. But he will remember them, remember the massacre today. The memories belonging to Prince Drake Proudmoore also came to mind at this moment. Let Blake also be touched by the scene, and after hanging silently in the sea for a few minutes, he slowly raised his hand, and with the body of the undead, gave a standard Kul Tira's military salute to the scene in front of him. He took a last look at the surging hell behind him, then turned around, grabbed the suitcase and the cursed weapon, swayed his limbs, and headed for the farther sea. In this sea, there is nothing but death and resentment. It is not worthy of nostalgia for the living.